Media.
Hey, Campside listeners. Welcome to Inside the Tent, our series where we go behind the mic of our hit podcasts. I'm Josh Dean, co-founder, EP, and host at Campside. Today, I'm going to talk with journalists Jake Adelstein and Shoko Plambeck about The Evaporated, a podcast we released a few years ago about the phenomenon of jouhatsu, or the evaporated people, in Japan. This was the first of two podcasts the Tokyo-based duo have made for us, Night Shift being the other. And if you missed those shows, maybe you know Jake's name as the author of Tokyo Vice, the book that the HBO Max series was based on. Ansel Elgort plays him in the show. Back in those days, Jake had an accountant who suddenly went missing one day, just before tax day. And that is the jumping off point for The Evaporated. He and Shoko went looking for Morimoto-san, and their investigation took them deep into Japan's fascinating and bizarre ecosystem of disappearing on purpose. It turns out that's not so uncommon over there, and there's a not exactly underground industry devoted to helping people do it. If you want more behind-the-scenes content from our shows and the people who made them, head to joincampside.com to become a free member of the Campside community. That's joincampside.com. Now here's my conversation with Jake and Shoko. Jake and Shoko, what time am I reaching you in Tokyo?
It's like 11:09 right now.
Yeah, it's 11:09. Early.
Just like old times. This is how we used to do it.
I know, the late night calls, the early mornings for you.
So this conversation is about the first show we all made together back in, was it 2022? 2021?
Yes, it was 2022. It's easy to remember because in December of 2022, when we finally finished our last episode, recording at the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan, which was kind of a nightmare, we discovered that the day after that we had finished that there had been a bomb threat to the Foreign Correspondents Club of Japan, and someone had threatened to kill me and
Yes,
blow up
that's
the building.
right. The last night we were doing our recording, like literally the last night of our recording, we were doing an all-nighter at this with CJ. And if we had actually found out about the bomb threat, we might not have been able to finish The Evaporated on time.
Why did someone threaten Jake?
Because I'm a muckraker, and it was a woman, and she felt that I was too pro-Korean, that I had written about too many nice things about the Koreans in Japan who were discriminated against, kind of like the Jews in the United States in the 1940s, that kind of thing. So she called the FCC and said she was going to blow it up and kill me and another reporter. And the FCC kindly didn't tell us until the next day. It was like a Monday. We'd all gone home at like 3 a.m, and then around 11 in the afternoon, like, the police have arrested the person that threatened to blow up the building and kill you. And I was like, what? What? You could have told me. You could have told me on Friday when it happened. I've been here the entire weekend.
Oh, wow.
We almost evaporated.
I did not know that you were almost evaporated in the making of The Evaporated. So that actually raises a good starting point, I think, which is that we knew that this had to be reported and hosted by a Japan-based team. Could you guys each explain a little bit about, obviously, Jake, you're an American who lives in Japan, which is already not typical. And then Shoko, you're Japanese-American, raised in America for the most part, right? So can you guys kind of describe how you ended up where you are?
I grew up in Columbia, Missouri, got into karate. I came to Japan wanting to get out of Columbia, Missouri, and learn more about Buddhism and Japanese literature and karate. And I ended up living in this Zen Buddhist temple where I am now one of these Zen Buddhist priests and semi-running it. And I just stayed in Japan and became a journalist for the largest newspaper there and covered organized crime and politics and other things for years and years. Briefly worked for the State Department on a study of human trafficking. Wrote a couple books. That's my Japan story.
I always tell people that I'm from Vermont, but I actually did spend some time in Japan when I was a kid. And I always wanted to reconnect with my heritage and get better at Japanese. So I moved to Japan when I was in college, and I've been in Japan ever since. I've spent almost all of my adult life in Japan, working in Tokyo, doing media and journalism. And that's how I ended up meeting Jake, and also being brought on to work on The Evaporated.
Shoko comes from Tottori Prefecture, and I have met her great-grandparents. And Tottori Prefecture is famous for yokai, like these Japanese creatures, like, one-eyed monsters or giant walls that appear in the middle of nowhere, and also for these creatures that make people vanish in the middle of the night. Japan has a long tradition of people vanishing, and they call it kamikakushi, hidden by the gods. And Shoko is literally from like one of the places where, that's such a part of folklore. People disappearing, monsters taking them, people vanishing in other worlds.
Amazing. So when you guys set out to do this project, so Shoko was spiritually perfect as a partner. How did you find the characters that we ended up focusing on? Like, it's kind of a big concept, but how did you guys go about finding the characters that we told it through?
Morimoto was my accountant. He disappeared with all my records and the money that I paid him in advance about 10 days before my taxes were due, leaving me in the lurch. And I'd always kind of wondered what happened to him because I liked him. And that was sort of our starting point. Like, where's Morimoto? Let's go look for Morimoto, because he had to disappear somewhere. And that was sort of the beginning. We went to his apartment and where he lived. And after sort of, hobnobbing with the superintendent, it became clear that he had moved in the middle of the night, like without telling anyone. People had shown up and packed everything, and he was gone, and took some furniture with him too, apparently. And from there, we were like, well, who does this? Who will show up at your house at midnight and pack all your stuff and help you escape? And that led us to the Night Movers, which I will turn that over to Shoko, because she was the person who located the premier night moving service here.
Yeah, I'm happy to go into that, but I just wanted to share my first thoughts when I heard about the evaporated. So, when I heard about the topic that we're going to be doing a podcast about missing people who go missing, can't be found, don't want to be found, my first thought, of course, was how are we going to make a podcast where we're talking to people about people who have disappeared and we can't find them? Um, and luckily, we had a character, Morimoto, who Jake actually knew that we could concretely find. We had no idea if we were actually going to find him, of course. And as Jake said, it turned into this project of not necessarily finding people who were missing that would talk to us, because that's really hard, but it became a project about finding people who are on the outskirts of it, the people who are surrounding the missing people, whether that's night movers or detectives or policemen. And that was a really interesting way to get insight into these people that otherwise nobody would be able to talk to.
Is there something about Japan that makes this phenomenon? Obviously, people disappear everywhere, right? But most countries don't have even a somewhat organized industry devoted to them. Even if its industry is an overstatement, there are at least businesses that do this. Like, is there something about Japan why this exists and is possible?
Well, first of all, it's easier here because you can get a manual. Here's one, the perfect manual of disappearing and resetting your life. It's this bright yellow cover. They got this guy walking around the earth, hopefully ending up, I guess, here with a bikini girl in the beach. And you've got this other one, the introduction to disappearing. You have the complete manual of disappearance, the classic, which tells you basically also how to steal someone's identity, including borrowing their company registration and all the ways that you can actually become someone else. This was the first of its kind. Published by the same people who brought us the complete manual of suicide, because often in the days when people were buying these books, they're often packaged, the manual of suicide and the manual of disappearance. And I guess the idea is that you're so embarrassed and you're so ashamed and you've screwed up your life so badly that you have two choices in Japanese society, where suicide isn't also considered such a terrible thing, which is you kill yourself or you vanish yourself. So which are you going to do? And so if you want to vanish yourself, and I always say choose life, there are guidebooks that will tell you how to do that. I mean, some of those guidebooks are now just on the internet. And until probably the last 2 years, it was surprisingly easy to do this.
I think that part of the reason there's such a market for it is because when people do mess up, in Japanese society, there's often less forgiveness for it than maybe we're used to in the States. They don't have anyone that they can turn to, anyone that can help them. They feel like they need to cut their ties with their family so they won't inconvenience those that are close to them. And so all that they can resort to are these services that will actually help you start over and have a new life, because that's the only entity that they can depend on.
And so people escape because they have heavy debts, right? There's lots of consumer loan companies. Now they're mostly owned by mega banks, but they used to be run by very shady outfits, and people get in debt. They can't pay the debts. They run away because those debt collectors will come and take everything you have. Japan is horrible with stalking cases. So if you're stalked by someone and you go to the police, they're not very helpful. Every year, there's always one or two horrible stories about some, usually a young woman, who was stalked by a man, went to the police, they didn't do something, and the stalker killed her. I mean, every year. And then they say, oh, we're going to do something better. We'll change the laws. We'll make it more proactive. And it happens again and again. So for some people, it really is a matter of life and death. You're in a domestic abuse situation. You're being stalked by someone, or you're up to your ears in debt that you cannot pay, probably because of poor life decisions.
Well, I remember like some of the most powerful episodes were that. I mean, including our night mover herself had been fleeing a abusive relationship, right? And then it seemed like her specialty was helping women who couldn't get out of relationships, right? And there's that story of the woman who she like never looked at herself in the mirror. I think, was that right? Her sense of self was so destroyed.
Yeah. Again, there's just so little support for a lot of demographics that need it in Japan. So in the case of domestic violence, people almost don't really see it as a crime, or they don't see it as a place where police or the authorities should step in and help. And so these women are really, truly on their own. And even when they try to get help, there's nobody who will really take them in. And if they do go to some sort of halfway spot, they're treated very unwell and will eventually just drop them off back home. So for people that are in these situations, there's literally only the option to go to somebody like the Night Movers.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about the woman who you guys focused on, and a little bit about her story.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Saita-san is very cool. But before we met her, we were very unsure about her. So we reached out, and I was, writing my business Japanese emails. They're long, they're formal, and you always expect to get one back. This wasn't like that. I got like one sentence back, which is in Japan, like unheard of to get a one sentence response back. So I was already like, okay, they just do things differently. And immediately they were like negotiating. They're like, all right, our time is precious. This is our fee for speaking. They were the only people in our entire podcast who asked for a fee to be spoken to. So we were going into this, like, this lady sounds shady. But we met her. And I think hearing her story and how much she has struggled and how much heart she has put into this business that she runs, it fits her character so well. And at the end of our interview, we ended up all really respecting her and being very glad that we were able to speak with her.
Yes, she also has this side hustle, which was really interesting. There's a movie that's come out called Rental Family with Brendan Fraser and Mari Yamamoto, who was originally going to do Shoko's part. He was originally going to be the co-host. And it's about, people renting family members for weddings or funerals or to apologize. And not only do they help people go missing or vanish, they also help them, like, you've cheated on your wife and you feel bad, and you hire someone to come and apologize, except it's actually not your mistress. It's the person you've hired to apologize so your wife can yell at her and scream at her, and, you can go on your way. Or you might even hire someone to apologize to a business client that's very angry with you. And I think that it's sort of a weird part of the vanishing act is that you're so ashamed that you would rather pay money to have someone pretend to be you and endure the shame and humiliation of being yelled at than it being you. And so you're sort of escaping that responsibility.
And we obviously focused on some financial cases. There was the golf course.
Oh, Sugimoto-san.
The guy who lost millions of yen on a golf course, right?
Yeah.
What was he fleeing?
He was fleeing the Yakuza.
Yeah, I think for guys, a lot of the times they just owe loan sharks or the Yakuza a lot of money, and the Yakuza are calling them and threatening their family, and they really have no choice but to run away.
Oh, and the Yakuza are scary about this because they know that there's a life insurance payout for suicide. It used to be that you had to have just 1 year of insurance before it would pay out, and suicide isn't a disqualifying factor. So, back in the old days, if you owed money, they'd say, kill yourself, kill yourself, kill yourself, pay your debts, be a man, be honorable. And that's pretty scary. And you also begin to realize that if they're urging me to kill myself this much to collect the life insurance money, which was part of the contract I signed when I took out this loan, they might kill me too.
Well, and that guy's story was also, sad because I remember he had a kid, right? Or more than one kid. So it's like these people feel like it's the better choice to disappear and start over, even if it means leaving behind a family that you love.
Yeah, I mean, because you don't know. They might try to use the family as leverage. They might try and threaten the family to get money out of you or to make you pay whatever you can. But if the family doesn't know where you're gone, all the family can say is, well, we don't know where he is. He's gone. We have no idea where he is. And in that sense, they're businessmen. There's no point in harassing a family who can't even get in contact with the guy because you can't make your demands known if you don't know where they are. And even the family itself doesn't know where they are. So if you're going to do it, you have to not only hide, you have to cut off all contact.
Yeah, I think that a lot of the time when there's somebody who messes up in Japanese society, there's this idea that the family is the one that cuts ties with them, with the person that messed up because they can't forgive them. And while I think that that is true sometimes, I also think that in Japan, if you mess up really badly, then there's this idea that it would be better to cut ties with your family so that you don't inconvenience them, because by you still associating with the family, the people around that family is going to look down on them and cause them trouble, and you wouldn't want to put your family through that, so people will cut ties and go as far as to disappear like Sugimoto-san did.
Are you now a priest?
I am.
And Shoko, are you at all interested in joining Jake's flock?
I don't think I'm going to become a priest anytime soon, but I wish Jake all the best.
But
I'll
it
swing
was,
by for tea.
it was, I think one of the nice things is that, and if there's a spiritual part of these things, is that by the last episode, as we were learning about Morimoto, we basically, we're like, should we forgive this guy? Like, we know he's done some crazy stuff, and I know this guy stiffed me out of money and caused me a huge pain in the ass. But when we understood the circumstances that led him to make that decision and those bad choices, including get involved with the client who was essentially a Yakuza front company, Shoko was like, I mean, I think we're too hard on this guy. And what wasn't that your feeling, Shoko? You were kind of the one who reiterated maybe there is a right to disappear.
Absolutely. I think leading up to actually meeting Morimoto, we had this image in our head of why he disappeared, and he stole everyone's money and he disappeared, and fuck this guy. Was kind of, there was like a little bit of that going on. And when I actually met him and talked to him, and he started telling me about how passionate he is about being able to finally work with a company that aligns with his values, and how difficult it was at the other company when his best friend died from overwork, and now he had absolutely no time to himself. I was like, I get it. I really do. I get why you would be handling these people who have so much money all the time, and this 3,000, emotion like 3,000 ish dollars would mean nothing to them, and it means everything to you because you're making like $2,000 a month overworking, and your coworker just died from it. And this person, Morimoto, was really trying to start over, and I felt bad for. I really felt not great about pulling him out of this life he was trying to make for himself.
Is that a Zen POV, Jake?
Yeah, forgiveness. People do their. There's the idea of karma, but there's also the idea of tsumi horoboshi, atoning for what you've done. and someone has screwed up and they're willing to try and make things better, you should give them the benefit of the doubt. I mean, that's, you got to let it go. And he was clearly trying to put his life back together and make up for what he'd done, to within his abilities, right? He didn't offer to pay back the money that I paid him for doing my taxes, but I didn't really expect that.
And also, I'm glad that I got to talk to Morimoto, because I feel like I had a lot of assumptions about him that would have stayed that way if I didn't actually speak with him.
When he told about his colleague at the office working to death, like overworked and basically having an ulcer that sort of blew up and died, and his working conditions and the fact that he was, that he had ended up with this client that was clearly an organized crime front company and they were demanding him to break the law. I'm beginning to go like, yeah, okay. Oh yeah. I would have done what you did. I would have ran.
Well, to hear the story of Morimoto and the others, hopefully anyone listening to this will go and check out The Evaporated, which available online, and we'll talk again about your other shows, and good luck at the temple, Jake.
Thanks, man. I got a call from the big boss. Like, I'm a really low-ranking Buddhist priest, and for someone, my Zen master died in November, and for someone to take over the temple, I have to pass this abbot test, which is kind of like passing your real estate examiner's test. So I'm in the middle of studying. I just wanted to be a low-ranking priest, man. I was hoping that the Zen master would be around for a while. I'd just be the errand boy, but that's not how it's going to work now.
Can I share an update?
Yes.
That is kind of my low-key effort at a pitch for season 2 of The Evaporated. I recently accidentally found 2 relatively well-known people who have gone missing from the public eye. One of them was a famous singer, and he's disappeared for 20 years, and I met him. He's doing very well for himself now, doing something totally different. Another person is a photographer who was like also relatively well known in like the Tokyo art scene. He disappeared, and I found him the other day as a homeless person living under a bridge.
Whoa!
I have one more too. I found a colleague of college of mine who went to work for a big company, advertising company, and ended up working for a Yakuza front company and becoming a Yakuza himself. He disappeared for 2 years, and a friend of his family asked me to find him, and I did. And that was also a bizarre and strange odyssey as well.
Whoa! All right.
Yeah.
I'm compelled.
Good. They're both fascinating cases.
Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah, thank you, Josh.
Thank you, Josh. It's lovely talking
Nice to talk to you.
We're here. We're not evaporating anytime soon.
Thanks again to Jake Adelstein, Shoko Plambeck, and the rest of the Tokyo, Japan-based Evaporated team. And thank you for listening to Inside the Tent. Don't forget to head over to joincampside.com to become a free member of the Campside community. That's joincampside.com.